The floral scent, thick and cloying, hangs heavy in the air, a suffocating sweetness that is nothing to mask the sharp, acrid tang of my own humiliation. It's a grand ballroom, all polished marble and chandeliers dripping with crystal, reflecting the candlelight in 1,000 fractured points of light. Laughter rings out from distant tables, the clinking of champagne flutes a mocking chime. My brother is getting married. This is supposed to be a day of joy, of family coming together. But here I sit. The chair back digs into my spine. It's too low. My knees practically touch the underside of the small, round table. The centerpiece isn't a delicate arrangement of roses and lilies like the others. It's a bright plastic bucket overflowing with crayons and paper napkins folded into clumsy shapes by tiny hands. Around me, small bodies squirm. A little girl with a tiara smears cake frosting across her cheek. A boy makes car noises as he races a bread roll across the table. They giggle, oblivious. The adult seated with us, a distant cousin I barely recognize, offers a strained smile, her eyes darting nervously towards the main tables. She's clearly doing chaperone duty. And I am part of the kids' table. They seated me at the kids' table.
Me.
My brother's sibling. His only sibling. The clatter of a dropped spoon sounds like a gunshot in the sudden, ringing silence inside my head. My fingers curl around the edge of the tiny table, the cheap laminate cool under my touch. I stare at the place card with my name on it, printed in a cheerful, childish font. It feels like a punch to the gut, delivered with a smile. This is it. This is where they put me. After everything. After navigating the minefield of this family for decades, after trying, after failing, after picking myself up again, this is the ultimate statement. You don't belong. You are an afterthought. You are less important than keeping distant Aunt Carol happy with her preferred seat. You are on the level of sticky fingers and spilled juice. The air is thick with unspoken judgment, even if the kids aren't the ones delivering it. It radiates from the main tables, a wave of indifference and quiet disapproval I've felt my entire life, but never this acutely, this publicly. My face feels hot, then cold. My throat tightens. I want to disappear. I want the floor to swallow me whole, chair and all. I want to run. But my feet are leaden. I'm rooted here, in this small, plastic chair, under the glittering, indifferent eyes of the chandeliers, surrounded by the only people in the room deemed less disruptive than me, children. This is my seat. At my brother's wedding. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you know. My life before this moment wasn't a fairy tale, but it was mine. I wasn't the golden child. That was always my brother, David. David, the charming, the successful, the one who effortlessly collected achievements and accolades like shiny pebbles. I was the shadow, the quiet one, the one who struggled with things that came easily to him. Academics, social graces, navigating the family's complex, unspoken rules. It was all a foreign language to me. While David sailed through life on a steady breeze of approval, I was often caught in the doldrums, or worse, battling headwinds the family seemed to think I'd conjured myself. Our parents were traditional. They valued stability, visible success, and maintaining appearances above all else. David provided that in spades. He went to the right schools, got the right degree, landed the right job at a prestigious firm. He was everything they'd envisioned for their son. I was different. My interests were niche, my career path unconventional. I chased ideas, not corporate ladders. This was met with polite, sometimes not so polite, disappointment. There were constant comparisons, thinly veiled criticisms disguised as concern. Why can't you be more like David? Was the unspoken mantra of my childhood, and it echoed through my adult years. I tried for a long time to fit their mold. I took jobs I hated, wore clothes that felt like costumes, tried to adopt interests that bored me to tears. It never worked. I was always me, and me wasn't what they wanted. Eventually, I stopped trying. I struck out on my own path, pursuing a venture that felt right, something I believed in, something that required long hours, little sleep, and absolutely no guarantee of success. It was risky, and in my family's eyes, reckless. They worried, they said. They just wanted me to be happy, they claimed, but their worry felt like judgment, and their desire for my happiness felt conditional on me conforming to their definition of it. My infrequent visits home were exercises in navigating polite interrogation about my lack of a real job, my single status, my inability to just settle down and be normal. David, meanwhile, was the shining example, his engagement to a lovely, well-connected woman the latest jewel in the family crown. When the wedding invitation arrived, I felt a pang of complicated emotion. Joy for David, of course. He was getting married, starting a new chapter. But underneath that was the familiar anxiety of re-entering the family orbit for a major event. Weddings bring everyone together, and with togetherness, in my family, often came scrutiny. I bought a suit, something decent, something that felt like me, but was still appropriate. I practiced polite smiles in the mirror. I braced myself for the questions, the comparisons, the pitying looks. I told myself it was just one day. I could get through one day for David. David and I weren't estranged, not exactly. There was a distance, a coolness that had grown over the years, a side effect of his place in the family hierarchy and mine. He wasn't cruel, not overtly. But he wasn't particularly kind or understanding either. He seemed to accept the family narrative about me, the one that painted me as the difficult, impractical one. He never defended me, never really saw my struggles. He just existed on his elevated plane, occasionally looking down with a mixture of pity and mild annoyance. I arrived at the venue feeling a knot of apprehension in my stomach. The ceremony was beautiful, moving in that way weddings are, filled with hope and solemn vows. I watched David, happy and radiant, and felt a genuine surge of affection for my brother, the boy I'd grown up with, even if we were now strangers in many ways. Maybe, just maybe, the reception would be okay. Maybe we could bridge the gap, even just for one night. Maybe they would see me not as the family disappointment, but just me. Then came the seating chart. It was displayed on an elegant easel near the entrance to the ballroom. Guests cluster around it, murmuring, finding their names. I approached slowly, my heart giving a little nervous flutter. My name would be there, nestled amongst family and friends, a place setting that said, "You belong." I scanned the large chart, table numbers listed, names beneath. Table 1, parents, grandparents, close aunts and uncles. Table 2, the wedding party, closest friends. Table 3, Table 10. My eyes darted across the lists. My name wasn't where I expected it to be, near other family members of a similar generation. Okay, maybe I was with distant cousins? Or friends of David's I didn't know well. That was fine. I kept searching. The knot in my stomach tightened. It wasn't on any of the main tables. Panic began to prickle at my skin. Had they forgotten me? No, that was impossible. My eyes dropped lower on the chart, towards the bottom, where special considerations might be listed. And there it was. A separate section, almost an afterthought. Tucked away. Kids' table. And beneath that a list of names. Sarah M., Tom P., Emily R., and then my name. Printed clearly, unequivocally, next to a list of actual children. The world tilted. The murmur of voices around me faded into a dull roar. My breath hitched. I stared at it, my name, there under kids' table. It wasn't a mistake. It couldn't be a mistake. Not on something this carefully planned, this meticulously arranged. This was deliberate. A wave of nausea washed over me. It wasn't just a lack of consideration. It was active placement. It was a statement. A brutal, public declaration of my status within the family, or lack thereof. They hadn't just marginalized me, they had infantilized me. Reduced me to the level of someone who needed supervision, someone who couldn't be trusted at a table with the real adults. I felt my face drain of color. My hands trembled. I wanted to rip the chart off the easel, to scream, to run. But years of ingrained politeness, of trying to avoid making a scene, held me rooted to the spot. I force myself to breathe, shallow, shaky breaths. Slowly, I lifted my head. People were still milling about, finding their seats. Had anyone else seen it? Had anyone noticed my name there? I felt exposed, vulnerable, as if everyone in the room knew. I located the kids' table on the floor plan diagram next to the chart. It was tucked away in a corner, furthest from the head table, near the entrance to the kitchen, almost out of sight. Perfect. They could pretend I wasn't even there. Swallowing hard, I forced my feet to move. I walked across the elegant ballroom floor, past tables adorned with sparkling centerpieces and crisp white linen, past the happy chatter and clinking glasses, towards the designated corner. Each step felt like walking a gauntlet, the distance immense. I felt the weight of every glance, real or imagined. Did they know? Were they watching? Were they thinking, "Oh, look, he's at the kids' table. How fitting." And now I am here, sitting on this small chair, surrounded by the innocent chaos of childhood, a million miles away from the celebration happening just yards away. The humiliation is a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. The small boy with the bread roll car looks at me. His eyes are wide and curious. He smiles, a gap-toothed grin, and pushes the bread roll towards me. "Vroom vroom," he says. I manage a weak, shaky smile back. "Vroom vroom," I echo, my voice barely a whisper. This is my reality now. At my brother's wedding. The initial shock fades, replaced by a dull ache, then a simmering resentment. I try to make the best of it. I attempt conversation with the chaperone cousin, but she's preoccupied, constantly scanning the room, probably making sure no children escape or cause a major incident. The kids, bless their oblivious hearts, are in their own world. They draw on the paper napkins, whisper secrets, occasionally bicker over crayons. I am an anomaly, a large, silent presence in their small world. I watch the main tables. I see my parents laughing, mingling, moving effortlessly through the crowd. They don't look over. Not once. David and his new wife are doing the rounds, greeting guests, radiant with happiness. I see my sister-in-law's parents, looking proud and distinguished. I see distant relatives who greet me with a polite, distant nod before turning back to their conversations at the adult tables. It feels like I am watching the wedding through a window, an outsider looking in. The music plays, people dance, toasts are given. From my corner, I hear the muffled sound of the speeches, snippets of laughter, the clinking of glasses. It's a party I'm technically at but not part of. The food arrives. For the kids' table, it's chicken nuggets, fries, and mac and cheese.
Standard kid fare.
The adults, I can see from here, are being served something far more elaborate. Glimpses of roasted meat, elegant sauces, carefully arranged vegetables. I eat my chicken nuggets slowly, each bite tasting like ash. Even the food is a symbol of my segregation. I feel a prickling in my eyes, a hot sting. I blink rapidly, willing the tears away. I will not cry here.
Not now.
Not where they can see, if they were even looking. Crying would be another sign of weakness, another confirmation that I can't handle things, that I belong at the kids' table because I'm not a real adult. The chaperone cousin finally turns to me. "Rough, huh," she mutters, her voice low, a flicker of sympathy in her eyes. I shrug, trying for nonchalance. It is what it is. "Yeah," she says, looking back at the main tables. Not exactly subtle, she sighs.
"Sorry about this."
"You deserve better." Her quiet acknowledgement is a small balm, but it also solidifies the reality. It's not just my perception. Others see it too. They see the deliberate insult. And they see that I'm taking it. The evening wears on. The energy of the main reception is a palpable thing, a vibrant hum of conversation and music. My corner remains quiet, punctuated by childish squabbles and the rustling of crayon wrappers. I try to focus on the children, to distract myself. I help one little girl find a specific color crayon. I listen patiently as a boy tells me an elaborate, nonsensical story about a superhero dog. Their innocence is a brief respite, A reminder that not everyone in this room is judging me. But every glance towards the main tables, every burst of laughter that doesn't include me, pulls me back into the churning sea of resentment and hurt. I see my brother at his head table, surrounded by his new wife's family, his friends. He looks genuinely happy. Does he even know I'm over here? Does he care? Did he approve of this seating arrangement? The thought is a fresh wave of pain. He was the one who always got everything, the one who seemed to coast through life, while I fought for every inch. And now, even on his biggest day, he participates in putting me in my place, literally. I remember childhood moments. Sharing secrets under blankets. Building forts in the backyard. Defending each other against neighborhood bullies. Those memories feel distant, like they belong to different people. The bond we had, thin as it was, seems completely severed by the expanse of this ballroom floor and the cruel symbolism of the kids' table. The family's history of dismissing me, of seeing me as less than, plays on repeat in my mind. The lukewarm responses to my attempts to share my ventures. The raised eyebrows when I talked about my goals. The subtle pity in their voices. This table feels like the culmination of all of that, a physical manifestation of their opinion of me. You are not one of us. You are a child, incapable of sitting with the adults, incapable of contributing anything meaningful to their world. The bitterness rises in my throat. I taste it, sharp, metallic. I could leave. I could just get up right now, walk out of this ballroom, out of this wedding, out of their lives. It would be dramatic. It would cause a scene. It would probably confirm everything they already believe about me, that I'm unstable, prone to overreaction, incapable of handling a simple social situation. But the thought of leaving, of retreating, feels like another surrender. Another confirmation that they won. That their small act of cruelty successfully drove me away. And something inside me rebels against that. Years of fighting against their expectations, of trying to carve out my own identity, have instilled a stubbornness I didn't always know I possessed. I won't give them the satisfaction. I won't let them erase me from this day, even if they've tried to box me into a corner. As the evening progresses, the music gets louder, the dancing more energetic. The kids at my table are starting to get tired. The chaperone cousin looks even more afraid. I sit straighter in my small chair. My initial reaction of shame and hurt begins to crystallize into something harder, colder.
Okay. This is where you put me.
Fine. You want to pretend I'm not an adult, not capable, not worthy of your main table world? Go ahead. You want to dismiss everything I am, everything I'm working towards? Be my guest. But you don't know everything. You don't know what I've been building in the silence, while you weren't looking. You don't know the people I've met, the connections I've made, the risks I've taken that are finally starting to pay off in ways you couldn't possibly imagine from your comfortable, conventional lives. You think you've exiled me to the periphery. But the periphery can sometimes offer a clearer view of the center. I see you, caught in your own world, your own expectations, your own narrow definitions of success and belonging.
And you don't see me.
You really, truly do not see me. And that, I realize with a chilling sense of calm, is your biggest mistake. The feeling of being a victim begins to recede, replaced by a quiet sense of power. They think they've rendered me powerless with a seating assignment. They have no idea. This table, this corner, it's not a cage. It's a blind spot. Their blind spot. And I am sitting right in the middle of it. My mind shifts. The hurt is still there, a dull throb, but it's layered over with a growing sense of anticipation. There's something they don't know. Something big. Something I haven't shared, precisely because their skepticism and dismissal had taught me long ago to keep my most important projects close to my chest. My venture, the one they considered reckless and impractical, has quietly, painstakingly, begun to flourish. It's in a sector they don't understand. Deals made with people they don't know. It's been a grueling journey, filled with setbacks and moments of despair, but also exhilarating progress. And a few months ago, after months of negotiation, of pitching, of proving the viability of my vision, I landed a major partnership. A partnership with a company that is a household name. a partnership that changes everything. And the CEO of that company, a man named Mr. Alastair Finch, a titan in his industry, a man my father speaks of with hushed reverence when his name occasionally appears in the business news, he was invited to this wedding. As a courtesy, I assumed, a networking opportunity for David perhaps, given Alastair Finch's tangential connection to his wife's family's business network. I hadn't expected him to actually come. I hadn't even considered the possibility of interacting with him here. But now, sitting at this kid's table, feeling utterly discarded by my own family, a different kind of possibility sparks. Alastair Finch knows about my work. He respects it. He invested in it. He sees me as a peer, a valuable partner. He sees the adult I am, the potential I hold. The contrast between his view and my family's couldn't be starker. My initial thought was to endure the evening, slip away quietly when it became polite to do so. But the cruelty of the kids' table changes things. It solidifies the depth of their contempt, their complete inability to see me as anything other than the family failure. And a new resolve hardens within me. I won't just endure. I won't just slip away. I will stay. I will sit here, in my designated corner, and if the opportunity presents itself, I will let the truth, my truth, collide with their carefully constructed narrative about me. The thought sends a jolt of nervous energy through me. It feels dangerous, exhilarating. It's not about revenge, not entirely. It's about correction. It's about finally, undeniably, shattering the distorted mirror they hold up to me. It's about reclaiming my identity in this space where they have tried to strip it away. I glance towards the entrance of the ballroom. Guests are still arriving, some latecomers perhaps. My heart begins to beat a little faster. Could he be here? Tonight? What would happen if he saw me? What would happen if he saw where they put me? Alastair Finch is not a man to be trifled with. He is sharp, direct, and utterly unconcerned with social niceties when it comes to business. He respects competence and despises condescension. If he were to witness this deliberate public humiliation, the corner where I sit suddenly feels less like an exile and more like a strategic vantage point. I can see the room. I can see the entrance. I can wait. My determination solidifies. I will not hide. I will not leave. I will sit here, at the kids' table, and wait for the right moment. The wedding music swells, a cheesy love song, but in my ears, it sounds like a building crescendo, the score to a scene that is about to unfold. I straighten my tie. I adjust my small chair. I am ready. The music dips slightly, signaling a pause, perhaps between sets. I scan the room again, the faces blurred by distance and the soft lighting. People are talking, laughing, sipping champagne. The kids at my table are starting to nod off, heads resting on folded arms. The chaperone cousin looks relieved, checking her watch. And then I see him. He enters the ballroom not through the main guest entrance I'd been watching, but through a side door, accompanied by a few hush-looking individuals who clearly work for him. He's unmistakable. Tall, imposing, with a shock of silver hair and an air of quiet authority that makes heads turn instinctively, even among people who don't know who he is. Alastair Finch. A ripple goes through the room. People recognize him or sense his importance. Conversations quieten slightly. He pauses just inside the door, his eyes scanning the vast space, taking it all in. He isn't smiling. He rarely smiles in public. He's all business, even at a wedding. My heart leaps into my throat, a frantic bird trapped in my chest. This is it. He's here. I freeze, unsure whether to signal him, to try and catch his eye, or to remain still, hoping he doesn't notice me. Years of being invisible at family events wore with a sudden, desperate need to be seen, correctly seen, by the one person in this room who understands my world. He starts to walk into the room, not towards the head table or the clusters of prominent guests greeting him with awestruck smiles and outstretched hands. He walks with purpose, his gaze still sweeping across the room. My breath catches. Is he looking for someone? His eyes continue to move, past the tables laden with flowers and linen, past the swirling dancers on the floor. His gaze is sharp, missing nothing. It passes over my family's table, over my brother, who is now standing, clearly having spotted him, a look of hopeful anticipation on his face. Alastair Finch gives him a brief, almost imperceptible nod, but doesn't break stride. He keeps walking, towards my side of the room, towards the corner, towards me. Panic and exhilaration war within me. He sees me. He's coming here. The noise in the room seems to fade. All I can hear is the pounding of my own blood in my ears. I feel the eyes of the chaperone cousin on me, questioning. I see the heads start to turn at the nearby adult tables, their curiosity piqued by the trajectory of the powerful, silver-haired man. He walks past the last adult table, past the invisible boundary that separates their world from mine. He walks into the kids' table zone. The children, mostly asleep, stir slightly at the movement. And he stops, right in front of my small, plastic chair. He looks down at me, his expression unreadable for a split second. Then a flicker, something almost like surprise, quickly masked. He takes in the table, the crayons, the sleeping children, and then his gaze settles back on me. He doesn't say anything for a moment. He just stands there, this towering figure of industry, next to my ridiculously small chair. The silence stretches, thick with anticipation. People at the nearby tables are now openly staring. My family, I can sense them, their eyes burning holes in the back of my head from across the ballroom. David, my parents, their laughter abruptly silenced. Alastair Finch clears his throat, a small, deliberate sound that cuts through the hushed room like a knife. He ignores the kids, the table, everything else. His full attention is on me. He speaks, his voice clear and resonant, carrying just enough to be heard by those closest, and probably by many others in the sudden quiet. "There you are," he says, his tone not questioning but stating. He doesn't sound surprised I'm here, only that I'm hard to find. He extends a hand, not formally, but familiarly, a gesture of respect. "We were starting to look for you. I wanted to touch base about the final numbers for the acquisition next quarter. Everything is proceeding as planned, but there are a few last-minute details I wanted to run by you personally. Acquisition. Next quarter. Final numbers. Run by you personally." The words hang in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Acquisition. Not just a partnership. An acquisition. My venture. Being acquired. By his company. A multi-billion-dollar company. And he's discussing the final numbers with me. I look at his outstretched hand. I look up into his expecting face. My mind is reeling, processing his words, the implications, the timing, the sheer, breathtaking audacity of this moment. And then I look past him, towards my family's table. Their faces. Oh, their faces. My mother's hand is clasped over her mouth, eyes wide with disbelief. My father's jaw has gone slack, his face pale. David's confident smile is gone, replaced by a look of utter shock, confusion warring with something that looks suspiciously like fear. The same relatives who ignored me moments ago are now staring, their eyes darting between Alastair Finch and me, their expressions a mixture of astonishment and dawning comprehension. They heard him. Everyone heard him. The whispers start immediately, spreading like wildfire through the tables closest to us. Acquisition. Alastair Finch. He's partnering with him. I feel a slow, deliberate smile spread across my face. It doesn't reach my eyes, not really. It's a cold smile, one of absolute, unadulterated vindication. I take Alastair Finch's hand. His grip is firm, a handshake between equals. "Mr. Finch," I say, my voice steady, betraying none of the earthquake happening inside me. I make sure to use his formal title, a subtle confirmation of the seriousness of his presence here, addressing me. "Apologies." Finding my assigned seat took a moment. I glance pointedly at the crayons on the table. Alastair Finch follows my gaze, takes in the setting again, and a flicker of something unreadable, amusement, disdain for my family, crosses his face. He turns back to me, his expression hardening slightly, the brief moment of social pleasantry gone. "Well," he says, his voice dropping slightly, but still carrying. Now that we've located you. This detail regarding the Q3 projections, he leans in slightly, launching into a brief, technical explanation of something complex, using jargon that means nothing to 99% of the room, but signifies everything. He's talking to me as a business partner, discussing multi-million-dollar figures, future strategies, the language of power, and success they always told me I was incapable of speaking. I listen, nodding occasionally, offering brief, intelligent responses, confirming details, asking clarifying questions. I am calm, professional, utterly in my element. In stark contrast to the small chair I'm sitting on, I am occupying the space with the confidence of someone who belongs exactly where they are, talking about things that matter on a grand scale. The room is silent, save for the low murmur of Alistair Finch's voice and my own measured replies. Every eye is on us, especially the eyes from my family's table. Their initial shock is giving way to a desperate scramble for understanding. Whispers are louder now. He's being acquired by Finch. I thought he was. Alistair Finch finishes his brief exposition. He gives me another firm nod. Excellent. We'll finalize this first thing Monday. Enjoy the rest of the evening. He doesn't linger. He doesn't need to. He has delivered his message, not just to me but to the entire room. He gives a general, polite nod to the stunned guests nearby, a brief, acknowledging glance towards the head table where my brother and parents sit frozen, and then, with his retinue, he makes his way towards the exit, the ripple of his presence following him. He is gone as quickly as he arrived, leaving behind him a silence, so profound it feels heavier than the earlier noise. I am still sitting at the kids' table. The crayons are still in the bucket. The sleeping children are still slumped in their chairs. But the air has changed. The silence is shattered by a sudden, frantic burst of movement from my family's table. My parents are half standing, their faces a mixture of panic and forced smiles. My brother looks like he's just been struck by lightning. Before they can even reach me, before the barrage of questions and bewildered apologies can begin, guests from other tables converge. People I barely know, distant relatives, friends of friends, suddenly appear at my corner. Their eyes are wide, curious, filled with a sudden, intense interest that was completely absent moments ago. I had no idea, someone exclaims, their voice shrill with surprise. Acquired by Finch? That's incredible. Why didn't you say anything? Another asks, a hint of accusation in their tone, as if my discretion was a personal affront. We saw Mr. Finch come right over to you, someone else says, stating the obvious, but their tone is one of awe. The chaperone cousin is staring at me, mouth slightly open, her earlier sympathy replaced by stunned amazement. I answer their questions calmly, briefly. Yes, the acquisition is happening. It's been in the works for a while. It's a significant step for my company. I don't offer details, just confirmations, letting their imaginations fill in the blanks. Each simple, understated answer is a quiet detonation in the world they thought they understood. And then my family arrives at the perimeter of the small crowd that has now formed around the kids' table. They look awkward, hesitant. They've clearly been trying to reach me, but the sudden influx of curious guests created a barrier. My mother reaches me first, pushing gently through the edge of the crowd. Her face is a mask of forced composure, but her eyes are wild. Darling, she says, her voice trembling slightly. We had no idea. Why are you here? Why didn't you tell us? The questions tumble out, not of concern, but of bewildered self-preservation, of trying to understand how this could have happened without their knowledge, without their control. My father is beside her, looking utterly bewildered. Son, he says, his voice uncharacteristically soft, almost reverent. Mr. Finch, you're working with Mr. Finch. David finally makes his way forward, looking pale and shaken. The confident groom from moments ago is gone, replaced by a man who looks completely blindsided. What was that? He asks, his voice low, urgent. Acquisition? Your company? I thought you were just... He trails off, unable to voice the dismissive assumptions he'd held for so long. I look at them. My family. The people who had decided my worth, labeled me, and cemented their judgment with a seat at the kids' table. The people who were now scrambling, trying to rewrite the narrative in real time. The crowd around us has fallen quiet again, sensing the shift, the family drama unfolding. I take a deep breath. The air in the ballroom no longer smells just of cloying flowers and food. It smells like victory. Bittersweet, yes, but undeniably potent. I'm sorry, I say, my voice clear and steady, addressing all of them, but my gaze resting on my brother, my parents. I must have been unclear about the scale of my work. I gesture, subtly, around the kids' table. I assumed, given where I was seated, that you didn't consider my professional life particularly relevant to the main celebration. The words land like stones. My mother flinches. My father looks away. David stares at me, his face a mixture of shock and dawning shame.
But
My mother stammers, "The table, it was just we thought it would be more comfortable for you, quieter." Her excuses are weak, transparent lies. I smile again, that cold, hard smile. "Yes," I say softly. "It's certainly quiet over here. Very insulating." I stand up from the small chair. It scrapes loudly against the marble floor, a jarring sound in the sudden silence. I am taller than they seem to remember. My suit feels less like a costume and more like armor. "The truth is," I continue, my voice carrying through the hushed crowd, "while you were building your life, your way, I was building mine. It might not have looked like your version of success, but it was real. It was significant. And it seems," I glance towards the main tables, the opulent setting, "that others saw its value, even if my own family couldn't." I don't raise my voice. I don't need to. The weight of the moment, the undeniable proof of Alistair Finch's visit, the stunned faces around me, it's more powerful than any shout. My brother steps forward hesitantly. I didn't know," he says, his voice low, almost pleading. "Why didn't you tell me?" "You never asked," I reply simply, the truth blunt and heavy. "Not really. You accepted the family's judgment. It was easier." He flinches again. He knows it's true. My parents are trying to recover, to regain some semblance of control. "Well, now that we know," my father says, trying to inject a note of congratulatory pride into his voice, but it rings false. "This is wonderful news. We're so proud." I look at him. Pride?
now?
When it's undeniable, public success validated by a man whose opinion they value above almost anyone's. "Are you?" I ask, my voice quiet, laced with dry humor and deep sadness. Funny how perception changes, isn't it? I don't need their pride anymore.
Not this way.
Not conditional on external validation. Their opinion, after years of weighing me down, suddenly feels light, irrelevant. Alistair Finch didn't care about my family's opinion of me. He cared about my work. That's the only validation that matters now. I stand among the sleeping children, the scattered crayons, the empty chicken nugget plates, and I feel a profound sense of release. The kids' table was meant to diminish me, to send a message about my worthlessness. Instead, it became the stage for the most powerful moment of my life. It highlighted their blindness, their petty cruelty, and made my quiet, independent success shine even brighter in contrast. I haven't magically transformed into the perfect family member in their eyes. The dynamics, the history, the unspoken resentments won't vanish overnight. This wedding, this table, is a stark reminder of the rift that exists. The vindication is sweet, yes, but it's mixed with the bitter knowledge that it took an outside force, a powerful CEO, to make my own family see me, truly see me, for the first time. I look around at the stunned faces, the averted gazes, the whispers that have started up again, different now, filled with awe and speculation instead of pity and dismissal. The kids' table is no longer a place of shame. It's my throne. I offer them a small, genuine smile this time, one of acceptance, not necessarily of them, but of the strange, unexpected path my life has taken. I don't need to sit at their table to belong. I belong to myself. And that is enough. More than enough. The music starts up again, louder this time, pulling the attention back towards the dance floor. The moment is over. The air is still buzzing, but the immediate confrontation is past. I turn and walk away from the kids' table, away from my stunned family. I don't go towards the main tables. I head for the exit, needing air, needing space. I step outside into the cool night. The sound of the party is muffled behind the closed doors. I breathe deeply. The weight on my chest is gone. The story isn't over. The aftermath of this night will be complicated. There will be phone calls, awkward conversations, attempts to smooth things over, perhaps even attempts to capitalize on my sudden, unexpected success. But it will be on my terms now. They don't get to define me anymore. I look back at the elegant building, lights spilling from the windows. My brother is inside, starting his new life. And I am outside, stepping fully into mine. A life built not on borrowed expectations or familial approval, but on my own sweat, my own vision, and the quiet strength forged in years of being underestimated. The kids' table was the final test. And I didn't just pass. I aced it. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear your version. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these to life.